The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good morning. This is Mark Miller from Navient. We're ready to begin our webinar today focused on life insurance best practices and some key process automation strategies for life insurance.
Hey guys.
Hey, again, this is Mark Miller from Navient, and along with me is Jennifer Mangino from Highland. She'll be co-presenting with us today. We'll go ahead and get started. I've got all the participants muted at this point. If you've got any questions during the presentation, or if what you're seeing on the screen doesn't really match what you're hearing from us, please raise your hand and let us know. We'll try and track that as well. We've got 30 minutes scheduled for the webinar today, and we've got a lot of content to cover in a pretty short period of time, so I'm going to hop in and get started right away. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. And there we go. So just a high-level overview of the agenda. As I mentioned before, we did some brief introductions. Again, my name is Mark Miller from Navient. I'm Vice President of the insurance group here within the organization. Along with me is Jennifer Mangino, who's an employee of Highland and focuses, she's an industry manager for the insurance solutions group there as well. The topics that we're going to cover for the webinar are primarily focusing on the challenges within life insurance today, some of the trends that we see within best-in-class insurers, on-base solutions for life insurers, and then we'll talk a little bit about a case study for Guaranteed Trust Life, one of our customers, and wrap up and close out from there. So let's first talk about, what are some of the challenges? Why are you here today? And maybe you're asking yourself, I want to get a better handle on how my operation compares to others within best-in-class providers. Maybe you think there's some room for improvement in your process, but you want to see how that compares to those other insurers. Maybe you spent the last 2 hours trying to find a missing file and you need a break. Maybe you're also trying to figure out a better way to track your liabilities. And you've identified that measuring with a yardstick or weighing the paper isn't really working very well for your organization. And then last but not least, maybe you're entering the same type of information multiple times into multiple systems, like your policy administration system, shared drives, or some type of tracking spreadsheet. Those are some of the reasons why you might want to take a look at the webinar today. So when you look at these issues, you really want to think about a balancing act between the business users and IT. Both of them want their processes to be easy, but you've got different groups to manage. The business users want technology that's easy to use, while the IT folks really want something that's easy to integrate. So how have organizations tracked these issues in the past? Well, there's a couple of them that are fairly common. And the first one we'll mention is paper files. The problem with this is the time to find the document with the information you need is going to require a lot of time, and now you've got to call your customer back rather than answer that question in one call. As you'll see in the upper right-hand corner of the screen, that's actually an actual storeroom of one of our customers that was taken about 18 months ago. They were printing 1.4 million pieces of paper within one of their processes within the organization, and now they have converted that room to a secondary conference room and a printing room that rarely gets used for printing anymore. But just wanted to show that example. I think we've seen lots of rooms like this through multiple customers. Another way that the organizations have tackled these issues before in the past is with in-house developed applications, but now you're finding that you can't locate new COBOL programmers, and your application is having a harder time being upgraded to this century. Shared drives are another example, but basically what you've done here are electronified your file system. They're still cumbersome and hard to navigate to find the information that you really need. And last but certainly not least would be that maybe your core system has an archive tool. it archives some documents, but it really doesn't handle workflow very well, and it isn't designed for long-term document management either. So that talks a little bit about some of the challenges and issues that I think a lot of folks that we talk to are experiencing. Let's talk about what the trends in life insurance look like today. The first one that I'm going to mention here is scanning documents on the front end of your process, bringing them in early on so that you can manage everything electronically. And what are the advantages of utilizing this method? One, it gives you the potential for a single point of truth. No longer are you storing a paper record versus data that's stored in policy administration systems. You got documentation in black and white that you can manage and use as that single point of truth. It allows you to more easily find information quickly and close that customer service call without the need for a callback. That's a big deal. If you can close those customer service calls quickly, you can save significant time within your process and keep your customers very happy and satisfied. And then last, and certainly not least, would be better visibility into your business. If you can get proactive and timely notifications about how information in business is working through the organization, that will help you make better decisions in the long term. The next trend that we talk about is a fairly simple one that a lot of folks have begun to deploy, and it's workflow. Workflow allows you to utilize technology to complete the mundane, repetitive tasks and let you put your people on more value-added tasks like making really complex decisions. Workflow is a technology that can execute those tasks automatically, like moving work from one person to another. It doesn't have to happen in a straight line. It can be moved to multiple people at multiple times. Another example that some of our customers will use is automating the letter writing process too. That's another way workflow can be used. There's hundreds of applications for workflow, obviously. The next trend that I want to talk about is what we call case management. So you've got all this type of information that you need to make complex decisions. Wouldn't it be nice to bring that to one location so that I don't have to locate and log into different systems? You don't have to search your policy administration system or a separate document management system. Maybe you do research on websites, you've got information on your portal, you've got notes from your CRM system. Well, you can pull that all together into one cohesive area so that without significantly changing and logging into multiple systems, it can all be tracked from one location. And that's what we call case management. When you think about the claims process, maybe you've got a death certificate that comes in a paper format and it's linked to the policy data. You got phone logs and correspondence that might be needed as well as web research and outbound letters. Again, all of those things can be pulled into one location to make your decisions. But that's a claims example. What about underwriting? What if you need to bring in your MIBs or agent interview content, notes, and other supporting materials like spreadsheets, the spreadsheets that everyone loves to use to track these processes. Ask yourself, would that make your life easier if all of the information I needed was located in one simple spot? The next trend that I'll talk about then too is dashboards and reporting. Think about, how do you know where the information resides within your process today? Do you need to run a report to find that information? And how do you know if you're running up against your service level agreement timeframes? Are those reports taking place on a weekly time frame, a daily time frame, or maybe it's even an hourly format? So what if you could find a solution that would present that information and let you know that you're potentially going to miss your SLA a couple of days ahead of time? Would that allow you to be more responsive and give your customers better service? And then along with that, and coupled to reporting and dashboards, is how do you know how your customer service agents are performing against their key performance indicators within that peer group? What if you could receive the information around their performance so you can identify who your star performers are very easily, and then identify other opportunities where folks might need additional training? Ask yourself again, would information like that be helpful as well? So that's a high-level overview of the different trends in life insurance that we've got. I'm going to switch gears now and hand the controls over to Jen, and she can talk a little bit more about OnBase and how they solve those problems.
Thanks, Mark. I'm excited to share with you some of the OnBase solutions for life insurers, but first let's talk a little bit about what OnBase is. And one moment.
Did you get control of that, Jen?
Yeah, it's passing over to show my screen, so just give me one moment.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and let me know if you can see me.
Yep, I think we can see your screen. You just want to go to presentation view. There we go.
How about that? All right, fantastic. So, OnBase is a single enterprise information platform for managing content, processes, and cases. And the product is built on a single database, code base, and content repository, which I think is especially important for insurance because documents that you've collected during the underwriting and policy creation process are going to be really, really important during whether it's a beneficiary change 10 or 15 years down the road or a death claim long after that, hopefully. So that one repository and the ability to connect content from different departments and processes is really important. And our entire OnBase product offering is represented by these 6 categories of functionality. And there's a lot of capabilities behind all of these, but I just want to focus on the 6 main categories for this presentation. So the first one is capture. From the mailroom to centralized and individual email boxes, integrations with fax servers, the capability to ingest data streams and batches of documents from other systems, vendors, from partners, and so on and so on. OnBase provides that ability to capture information at the point of receipt and to classify it and route it to the correct recipient, streamlining your business processes, which is really important because we don't only get information through our mailroom anymore. It's coming from every possible angle and every possible format, paper, email, electronic, data feeds. And we want to be able to funnel those all into the same processes so everything's getting processed in a consistent way. The next piece, of course, is content management. OnBase, of course, at its core is a content management application, and that means that everything's classified, organized, and made accessible to your employees, to your partners, to your customers, and more via the OnBase interface, through native integrations with email clients such as Outlook and Lotus Notes, the Microsoft Office suite, mobile applications, integration with core systems, and more, such as portals to provide that content to your customers and to your business partners. The next piece that Mark touched on a bit is workflow and business process management and case management. So capturing and classifying content is a very important first step, but what you do with the content is equally important, if not more. And OnBase provides a robust library of rules and actions to provide the capability for point-and-click business process design for both document-centric and data-centric processes. And if you don't really have the capability to do both of those things, because we live in both worlds all day long with our business processes, then you're going to be managing multiple work streams when that's not what you want to accomplish. The next one is document creation. So lots of different ways to accomplish this, but at the core, the ability to create document composition templates and couple that with the power of the OnBase workflow to have the ability to pull data from OnBase, from other applications. So if you have a core life insurance application, maybe you're using LifePro or FAST or Sapiens or one of the other applications, we're able to pull that data directly from those systems to populate your composition templates and provide so that you're able to standardize those correspondence templates, which is good for compliance reasons, also of course for process efficiency reasons. create those correspondence. We can do that automatically through workflow. Provide your employees, those knowledge workers that are really adding a lot of value into the process to update or change that correspondence if that makes sense. And go ahead and send that out through whichever method makes sense. So whether that's email, through print stream, or the like, because our customers like to be communicated with different ways, and depending on what type of correspondence it is, we have compliance reasons where we have to communicate in different reasons as well. And then of course archiving that correspondence directly into the client file, whether that's policy or claim or a customer file. And then last, certainly not least, or next to last and certainly not least, is reporting and dashboards. Mark talked a little bit about this, and I'm going to show some examples in just a minute, but the reporting and dashboards provides the ability to monitor all of the activity in your system, whether that's the number of applications that are getting processed by state or region, what your claim activity looks like, the volume of account change requests and the status of those, so we can check progress versus service level agreements and more. The ability to measure that gives your staff and your managers the ability to monitor that real time and make adjustments so that they're reaching their goals. And then, of course, for sure, last but not least, of course, storage, security, and records retention. So insurance documents, much like every other industry and more, have a lot of regulations around what we can do with those, how long we have to keep them, and when we can get rid of them, and robust security about who's going to access those. So OnBase has that capability to automate your record retention policies and make sure that you're purging those things when the useful life of those documents ends. So moving on quickly here, just a little bit more about OnBase. OnBase has been developing, Highland, creator of OnBase, has been developing ECM for 25 plus years. 96% of these customers renew maintenance, which is really important. That means the fellow OnBase users are voting with their dollar and see continued value in leveraging this system year every year. 15,000 customers across the globe in 80 different countries. We only develop OnBase, so 100% focused. And about 15% of our revenue goes back into research and development of the product, which means that every annual release of the software, there is a ton of enhancements that helps insurers like yourself keep ahead of the competition by having new features and functions to take advantage of. And then, of course, recognized as a leader in the ECM world. And here's just an example of a couple of the folks out there that are monitoring these things from an industry perspective. So the Forrester Wave is a strong performer and a leader for both dynamic case management and transactional content management. And then, of course, in the leader quadrant for the Gartner Magic Quadrant for enterprise content management. Definitely a lot of industry experience. There's well over 525 insurers across the globe using OnBase. Experience converting from legacy document management systems. A lot of times, and this is changing in recent years, but insurance companies haven't been the early adopters for technology, but from an electronic content management or document management system, that's a little bit different. There are a lot of applications out there, or companies out there that implemented an electronic file cabinet. So we have the ability to help you get all of those old documents out of a system that doesn't provide all the capabilities that you need, such as business process management and workflow, and get those into OnBase. And then proven integrations with all of the core administration systems. So in the life world, if you're using FAST or Sapiens or LifePro or any of the others out there, there's others that have integrated the two systems together to make the ease of application, the ease of your employees working, so that they have all the content that they need to get the job done. Insurance companies using OnBase across the globe and across the country. Don't want to dwell on that too much, but there's definitely a lot of activity going on. And just an example, a handful of some of those life insurance companies that are leveraging OnBase. Excuse me. So just a handful of them here. Again, I mentioned that there was over 525 on-base insurance customers, and about 25% of those are life insurance companies, so roughly 125 organizations that fall into that life and annuity category. So here's where we're going to spend the next 2 or 3 minutes, and hopefully you'll get excited about what you're seeing, and we can follow up on that. And Mark, can you still see my screen?
No, something happened.
It did.
Popped out of presentation view or something. I'm not sure.
I didn't touch anything, so.
Neither did I.
All right, stand by, everybody. But we're going to talk about just the different places that OnBase is used in. Can you see me now?
We can.
All right, fantastic. So let's talk about the different ways that OnBase is used for life insurance companies across the organization. And that's really from cradle to grave for all of your insurance-centric processes, as well as back office, which we won't get into today. So think about your new business process. We're all looking for ways to streamline the acquisition of new business. So whether that's advanced capture for new business application processing, ingesting and scanning those documents, making sure that all of the required fields are there and that the application is in good order before you put it in front of one of your underwriters. So saving time, saving money, and really allowing those knowledge workers to focus on the work that can actually be accomplished. Field applications to allow for the capture of applications, new business applications out in the field on a mobile device. Streamlining your client onboarding, and of course providing your agents and your distribution force access to documents, whether those are electronic applications to complete or the status of applications for your mutual customers, or the ability to access and download the policy files and applications so that you don't have to mail those out to them. Those are certainly capabilities. From an underwriting perspective, we talk about underwriting workbench. So all of those applications that are not in good order or need specific attention, being able to manage that process so that your underwriters know exactly what they need to focus on, and that your managers know exactly the volume, the bottlenecks that are happening within their department and can take advantage of that. Solutions for reinsurance marketplace. So if you're shopping different reinsurance treaties for different processes and shopping that out to multiple companies, we have capabilities to help streamline and track all of that so that if you send a quote out to 5 different reinsurers, it can automate that process for you, manage the communication, and give you your underwriters one view into what's happening in those cases. MIB integrations, of course, premium audits and integrations with those policy systems that I talked about earlier. From a policy services perspective, I think the biggest thing here is to help streamline the policy change requests, whether those are beneficiary requests or loans against the policies that you've written. You're getting a lot of requests from your customer base, and the ability to streamline the acquisition of that information, whether it's paper from the phone or an electronic form via the website, and manage that information, route that application to the right people to process it is going to really help. Of course, the claims department, claims processing, and to me in the claims world for life insurance, it's really about having really organized files so that the claims adjusters can review the death claim and make sure that they have everything that they need to process the claim and make sure that there's not any fraud. And then, of course, compliance. So there's a lot of compliance concerns in the life insurance world. We have specific solutions to help handle anti-money laundering, global risk and compliance, code of conduct and ethics, customer complaint management, PCI compliance, and more. And again, this is all with those 6 buckets of capabilities that we talked about, built on that single platform. And we have examples of how you can implement this and can talk about how this would specifically affect your organization. So as we move on a little bit quickly, I just wanted to show you some examples of what this could look like. So that new business and underwriting workbench, Mark was talking about that case management view to look at all of the information that happens to be going on with a particular transaction. We can see at the top of the screen the ability to approve the application, decline it, escalate it to a supervisor. So these are kind of easy buttons that help your employees interact with the business process by presenting them with the choices that they have in context to what is going on in that particular work process at that time. And also the ability to look at the complete file associated with it right from that interface. So that's what that could look like. We talked about reporting and dashboards. Here's an example of the ability to see all of the applications that are coming in per state, and the ability to look at some watermarks. So it looks like in Ohio we're not getting the amount of business that we expected. So maybe that's going to trigger one of your account managers to get on the phone with the agents in Ohio to ask them what's going on and maybe triage some problems so that you don't get below your sales. And then last but not least, as we run through here quickly, I know we got to get to our case study, is those compliance solutions. And there are case studies and solution briefs on our website on all of these, but they're really specific case management solutions to help you handle the anti-money laundering investigative case management. Figuring out the ability for all of your employees across the organization to anonymously alert to suspicious activities and manage that from one easy interface. The ability to manage that whole governance, risk, and compliance solution and make sure that we're adhering to all of the different regulations from different states and different countries as far as financial transactions go. One, routing for customer complaint management. So making sure that those are all being handled consistently, which is important to the insurance regulators. Just an example of what that could look like. And then code of conduct and ethics training. So a lot of your employees have to go through a lot of training every single year to make sure that they're adhering to all of the policies and regulations. And this gives you the ability to add, monitor that, push those trainings out, make sure that they're taking them, make sure that they're passing the tests associated with them, and reporting on all of that, which is really going to streamline a lot of processes and a lot of headaches for your compliance or your training department. Just some examples of what that could look like. So with that, I'm going to pass controls over to Mark again so he can talk about a case study. If I can figure out how to do that. And there we go.
Okay. Thank you, Jennifer. Let me just get back to the next section of the presentation, and we're going to focus on, whoops, that's not what I wanted. We're going to focus on a case study from Guaranteed Trust Life, one of our customers that worked with for a number of years. They're in the life insurance space, of course, based out of Glenview, Illinois, which is a suburb of Chicago. They've got 267 associates, process about $2 billion in claims, and have $1.2 million, $1.2 million insured within their organization. The solutions that they focused on for OnBase were claims processing, accounting, and mailroom, and they've got an integration that takes place with LifePro. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. So I'll start with the challenge. You know, they've got a really complex multi-step procedure for receiving, sorting, and processing claims. It was very slow, lots of different touch points. They had hundreds of file cabinets and were completely paper-based from beginning to end. No scanning really took place within the process. And the issue that they're running into was that they were oftentimes missing files. They spent hours upon hours trying to locate files. In addition to that, some of those files were stored off-site at a secondary location. So you'll hear a little bit more about the challenges that they experienced with trying to retrieve information from those remotely stored documents. In addition to that, there was they had limited reporting functions on the claim status and liabilities. So the organization really had to rely on historical averages to understand where they thought the business was going and the amount of work that they had taking place. And overall, this led to a lower customer service offering, and the customers were definitely feeling the issues of their limited automation that was taking place at GTL. So what was the solution? Well, now we started by scanning all at the mailroom on the front end of the process, all of that documentation that was previously handled on paper. So now we've got an opportunity for the single point of truth. There's no shadow files. There's no separate secondary files. This nearly eliminated any of the lost or misplaced files issues that they were experiencing before. We automatically updated LifePro within the integration utilizing application enabler that basically removed the duplicate keying of the same data into multiple systems. They now use workflow to route the claims packages that were completed, and then any of the files that needed additional work can go to a different queue so that you can segregate the type of work that's being done and have multiple work streams taking place at the same time. In addition to that, they're automatically notifying kind of the key stakeholders within the process as to where that work stands. So now we're eliminating the guessing of the liabilities based on those historical averages that I mentioned before. And then what's the value to the what's the value to the organization as well? Well, it's really transforming their business. It's providing a lot more visibility into the process, the transparency. There's centralizing of the data all within one location within OnBase, and overall it's improving their risk management. Some of the specifics then on the value of the solution is reducing their pending inventory by about 5,000 claims. They're now able to close those customer service calls without needing callbacks because the research and the information that they need is located right at their fingertips. In addition to that, they saw a 16% reduction in office supplies, which equates to about $15,000 annually by not needing to store paper, store as much paper, put it in file cabinets, fewer staples, paper clips, everything related to paper was reduced dramatically. And then overall, as I mentioned before, one of the big issues was increasing the visibility into the process so that the key stakeholders and business managers can make better decisions around what's going on within the organization. And here's the last quote then from Leslie Hanslope, the Vice President of Claims at GTL. Before OnBase, our biggest complaint was the inability to find files. If the file you were looking for was in storage, you knew the process was going to be delayed. Leslie really grasped OnBase and embraced it tremendously. They developed their own internal video that was used then to share with the organization how this has transformed that part of their business. It's a pretty powerful tool, and we'll get that posted up on our website and give you access and links to that additional content as well. So in a nutshell, that was the Guarantee Trust Life case study and how it really transformed their claims process. The last slide I'd like to cover here before we finish up and wrap up for the day is really to talk a little bit more about Navient and our methodology, because this is the piece that we feel differentiates us from other organizations. We concentrate first on the process and how people engage in the process, and then later on technology to enable that process, and that helps us design the most efficient way to accomplish your goals. Some of the folks on the line today that are participating have certainly experienced our discovery and planning process, this approach, and I think could speak to the success of utilizing this methodology with hundreds of organizations, especially in the insurance space. So, with that, I want to wrap up. I've got some contact information here. Again, my name is Mark Miller, VP of Insurance at Navient. I'm your main point of contact if you've got any questions, and I want to thank Jennifer for joining us today and assisting in the presentation. We'll follow up over the next couple of days, and we have recorded this information as well, so if you'd like to review this information or pass it along to anyone else, please feel free to do so. But we'll get the link for this recording up and share it with everyone as well. So again, I want to thank everyone for their time today and appreciate it. So have a great day.